Welcome back to Behind the Food TV. I'm your host, Al Wasserberger, where we go beyond the lens and straight into the smoke, stories and soul of the chefs and creators you love. Today, I'm going to get candid with three barbecue juggernauts, actually four, folks whose names you've seen on menus, grills, Facebook pages, and TV screens across the country. First up, you know them as the duo who brought Central Texas barbecue royalty to Dallas. But before the pits and the brisket, one was running $1 billion fashion brand and the other was working in TV production. Now, 14 years later, they've built one of the most iconic barbecue joints in North Texas, blending legacy with hustle. Please welcome the stars of this week's I Got Schooled episode, the smoke slinging power couple behind Lockhart Smokehouse, Jill and Jeff Burgess. Second up, born into brisket and baptized by fire, literally. Our next guest carries the Hutchins BBQ torch with grit and grace. When flames tore through their McKinney location, he didn't just rebuild, he and his brother came back stronger, and they've established themselves as pillars of the barbecue community. He's a steward of tradition and a force of recovery. Say hello to Trey Hutchins. And finally, he started in a backyard, built a following online, and turned a passion into a business that punches with the heavyweights. Whether it's his signature brisket, his fire community, or his fearless flavor experiments, this Pitmaster is redefining what it means to build a barbecue brand from scratch. The founder of North Texas Barbecue Addicts, welcome Kenneth Cunningham. So I want to jump in with something very important. I want to welcome Kenneth and also wish him a happy birthday.
Happy birthday
Kenneth
to
and
you
I
too,
were
man.
born. Thank you very much. We have both share the distinction of having the best birthday of the year, May 2nd. Except Kenneth has a little bit less salt and pepper than me. Same day, but 20 years later he was born. But amazing that we both have kids that are exactly the same age. So happy birthday, Kenneth. So let's
Happy
kick it
birthday. I
off by
appreciate
telling
it.
us what you. Thank you. What'd you do for your birthday weekend?
Oh man, so this weekend I knew first off I had a Texas barbecue battle that we were hosting out in Bedford, Texas. That was the day after my birthday. So I played it smart and we went to Top Golf Friday. You know, I could still have a few drinks but not be out far from the house. And believe it or not, I was actually smoking dino beef ribs while I was at Top Golf also. So I had to stay focused a little bit, but it was full of just, I mean, the weather cooperated mostly and just good times with friends and family and a lot of barbecue. What about you?
Awesome. So I actually took the Jeep out into the mountains of Tennessee and did some off-roading out in Oliver Springs, which was super fun. I did not break anything on the Jeep or on my body for that matter, so we're going to call that a win. But unfortunately, there's not a good barbecue joint in Oliver Springs, Tennessee. So I didn't get to eat barbecue on my birthday. And what's worse is I got to see a Facebook post from you, Kenneth, saying that you were making beef ribs, which are my favorite.
Yeah, yeah. No, we'll have to get together and cook some beef ribs sometime.
Absolutely. So, Trey, welcome to the show. I really have been a fan of yours for a long time, and you and I have never had the opportunity to interact. It was kind of cool hearing your name not only while we were working with Jeff and Jill and hearing about the great things that you did to help them get started and the advice that you gave them, but a couple of weeks ago, we recorded a couple of more episodes that you haven't seen yet out in Abilene, Texas. And it seemed like everywhere we went, people were saying, yeah, we just couldn't have got this off the ground or we couldn't have figured this problem out if it wasn't for the Hutchins brothers and how they have become pillars of the community and helped everybody. So I think I'd like to maybe start the conversation by talking about community. With Kenneth here, who runs a formal community, Trey, like we said, you and your brother are leaders in the community, and Jeff and Jill, as I think, showed pretty clearly in this week's episode. Hopefully, everybody that's watching the podcast has had a chance to see that episode. You guys have also become pillars of the community. Let's maybe kick it off by talking about the community of folks in the barbecue business and the community of fans. Jeff and Jill, do you guys mind kicking it off and talking about the role of the community for you guys and how important it was for you guys getting started?
Um, well, yeah, and I do want to give kudos to Kenneth because one of the great things about his Facebook group is a while back, he said, "You know what, guys? Everybody in the barbecue industry works really hard, and we're not going to go on and just trash people,
Right.
because everybody's got a different way of doing it. We all have good days, we all have bad days, but I think that's been one of the most beautiful things about keeping things supportive, because it is easy for everybody to have an opinion." But in the barbecue world, it does take a lot of work to do it day in and day out. So I think that's one of the great things about community. The other great thing about community is, when we were first launching, the name Lockhart brought a lot of people in. But I will say, Jeff and I went to school in Sherman, and I'd always heard about Hutchins. I think then it was Randy White. Is that right? That it was some iteration, or am I making that up, Trey?
Yeah, we had the Randy Bites for 12 years. We continue to
Okay.
have our Hutchins, but yes, we did. Yes, ma'am.
So, I mean, there's just so much history and barbecue community all around.
So Trey, can we talk a little bit about the origin story of Hutchins and how the community kind of grew around you? Because you guys didn't kick this off. It started with your folks, right?
Right. Yeah. My dad started, Kenneth, I believe. Thank you, Kenneth, for all you do with Texas Barbecue Addicts, and Jeff
I
and Jill
appreciate it.
for getting me in contact with Al for sure. So, yeah, my dad started, Kenneth, I believe you're from Princeton.
Yes, yeah. I actually live in Princeton
Okay.
still right now.
Okay. So that's where it all started for us. And, Roy Smokehouse in 1978. So, we just grew up into it. Our story from Kenneth's to Jeff and Jill's completely different. My dad put a little portable building. Had me and Wes, my older brother at the time, put us in a 12 by 12 room for 1 year. We took baths out of a little wash tub. After that, he added a room onto it. So it's, really, really, kind of a wild start. My dad was just doing everything he could to make a living. He was running a meat route for Hensley Packing out of Denton, Texas. So, just trying to pay the bills, keep the lights on. And so, yeah, from this little portable trailer in Princeton to opening up our Hutchins in 91. And, back then, and really 20 years ago, Texas barbecue it was not the cool thing to do. And so, being in community, we went to Frisco in 94 as Hutchins. So we 91, 94. So we've been around the area for a while. But yeah, it's a totally, like I say, it was just hard work from washing dishes to, smoking meats all night long. So it was really just a means to an end to, I got married when I was 25, and just to be able to pay bills. And then we obviously worked hard. We've put multiple locations in, from sports bars to burger joints to fast food tacos. So we've done a lot, lost a lot through trial and error with that. But yeah, I guess probably in '09, 2010, we seen what was going on with Texas barbecue, and we've always made a good living in barbecue. And so, yeah, it's been amazing to be a part of not just the local community with the Frisco and McKinney, but the Texas barbecue community. And so, I look at some of these guys nowadays, these top 10, top 50 Texas Monthly, and what's going on. It's so intriguing to me because where my dad started, that would probably be one of the coolest stories out there today. He raised, and then Tim come along in 1980, but so we literally, dad took that 12 by 12, added a 16 by 30 room. And so until me and my brother left the house, that's where we lived, in one room. And funny story, me and my brother Wes, we had that little barbecue house. The bus would drop us off, and we had a neighbor next door, Miss Loki. And so we would tell the bus driver to drop us off in front of her house. And so we didn't want none of the kids to think we lived in this little bitty portable building barbecue house, right? And so we're literally, Miss Loki would always be on her front porch in her chair. And so we're walking. She knew exactly what we were doing, right? She knew it. And so we're walking, get off the bus. We walk all the way up to her house, and we're like, "Hey, Miss Loki, how are you doing?" And we jumped the fence. And obviously she knew what was going on. We caught the bus out in front of her house every morning. So, I'm saying all that to say this. I think if you had all these foodies, and dad had a great product back in the day. Obviously, the the quality of the proteins have definitely, because they're just a different level today, right? But yeah, I think his story would be, like a Tootsie, like a Goldie's, just these little small places that open one day, 3, 4, 5 days, which is cool. And I still, I'm still intrigued by those and how they're doing it. But yeah, being a part of the community, seeing what guys like Kenneth is doing with North Texas Barbecue Addicts, getting friends with Jeff, Jill, and just so many others. In fact, my friends, my network of friends is in this business. That's on my text. That's who I deal with, from customers to locals in the town, and it's really all through this business. And those are truly my friends to this day. And besides family, I don't think I have any outside friends. They're all connected some way or another. So I don't know what that says about me. I do love people. I love being around people, but I love my me time. But yeah, it's just amazing what's happened in the barbecue world. And Kenneth, Daniel, Vaughn, just so many others. There's so many foodies out there nowadays, and kind of what Jill was saying. Yeah, I love what North Texas Barbecue Addicts do, because food is so subjective.
I appreciate that.
From one place to the other. And and I love barbecue, not just our barbecue, but I've been to Terry Black's probably 8 times in the last 4 months. I was at Hurtado's 2 weeks ago in Dallas. I was texting him, letting him know we're there, and just wanted to check out his new place. And Fort Worth a couple of weeks ago, and just Terry Black, spot on. Hurtado's, everything was spot on. Went down to Pecan Lodge, hadn't been there in probably a couple of years. So I love the community. I love going out and trying other barbecue joints, seeing what they're doing. And there's very few that I've ever walked into that I don't walk out of. And, I'm like, okay, well, we may be doing that a little better, but I can always pull some pretty good ideas. And
Right.
love the barbecue community.
So who are the folks, I keep hearing everybody I talk to says, Trey Hutchins and family helped us get started. Who are the folks that were your early mentors, Trey, that helped you to find your way? Was it just your folks, or was there a community back then?
Back in the day, living in one room for 5 years definitely had an impact on me. So I was probably chasing more of the business side of it uh, than really anything, just being transparent with you. You may or may not know, I'm sure Jeff does, but Culture's Barbecue, they were just these beautiful buildings, chains, kind of like a Spring Creek, Chris Carroll. And so those guys are somebody I looked up to, because I remember we actually at Roy Smokehouse, I was probably 16 or 17, and we had a food trailer. We'd go set it up at different places, different times of the year. We'd sell chopped beef sandwiches and barbecue out of it, but that wasn't cool, right? That wasn't the thing to do now. So I wasn't aspiring to put a food truck in, a food trailer in. I was looking to put this big, nice building in this, nice city, nice location. And the goal was to have, maybe 4 or 5 at a time. So, and we've done a lot of that. We got a little, we put 17 restaurants in since 1992. So,
Wow.
and, sold
Man.
some lot. So we've been, a lot of people look at me and Tim, or I say that, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but I can see where, you do got guys like Hurtado's. I know Jeff and them got at least 3, maybe 4 locations now around the
Yeah, 3.
country. I don't know. Okay, 3. Okay. So then you have Hurtado's, you have, Terry Blacks, and you have some of these guys that are scaling it really big, but, you know, uh, we've got the 2 locations and we're very, very happy with those, and got some big plans in place. We may talk about that a little later, but to say never ever we put more locations in, I wouldn't say that, but we've really just grew inside these two buildings, these 2 cities. And combination for the success of Hutchins today is, first and foremost, we feel like it's definitely all about our product. I mean, that starts with it, and then building a culture within our staff. That is so huge for us, and that's first and foremost. But the popularity of Texas barbecue, not just in Texas, but around the world for that matter. And so that's a huge, we got to bless, of course. And, I have my faith, and I definitely believe I know we're blessed, but and then we're in two of the hottest cities in America, two of the fastest growing cities in America, and right down the road from us in Frisco, we have Solana, which is now the fastest growing city in America. So we've kind of got a perfect storm going for us, and I'm not saying it's to take away nothing from our hard work and our product, but there's a lot of things going on with Texas barbecue.
You mentioned around the world. This is the first episode where we launched channel memberships on the YouTube channel a couple of weeks ago. And on this episode, we've actually got some of the channel members sitting in his live studio audience. And one of them actually, a gentleman named Andrew, who's been a fan of my channel since my 4th video in 2020, which is a cringy
That's awesome.
AF video of lamb shoulder, is all the way from Sydney, Australia. And
That's awesome.
and Kenneth, I know he's a
That's
member
awesome.
of your Facebook group as well. And
Awesome. Thank you.
so it really, Texas barbecue has become really a global phenomenon, and it's kind of fun for me having folks from all over the world participate. Kenneth, you're both a part of the barbecue community as a creator, and I think walk in the same circles as these folks, but you also are kind of a pillar of the barbecue enthusiast community, the folks who compete, the customers, etc. How did you get into that world?
Honestly, I guess to start out, it's for it to be called North Texas Barbecue Addicts. So I used to dip and I used to smoke, and I mean, as a 20-year-old, I just wanted to be outside playing beer pong with my friends, but I didn't want to be doing that anymore. So I was like, let me go buy a cheap little grill. Let me cook some stuff. I don't know what's going on, but I can still play beer pong. I can still be outside. And then when I got kind of, I won't say bored, but in a good element with that cheap little grill. I just kept moving up to another brand or a different price point for a grill, and I've just fallen in love with being busy cooking. Honestly, that's what it's about for me. That's why it's called North Texas Barbecue Addicts, is because truly addicted just to the process of the barbecue, the fire, all of it.
So you're just one of us enthusiasts who happens to have 300,000 people following you on social media, and going where you tell them to go and eating what you tell them to eat. Is that how it works?
Well, I think it goes back to that story. I think I can relate to a lot of people in different realms of barbecue. If you're just like starting out in the backyard, or if you want to do catering, or you want to do content creating, or you want to respect others that do barbecue on a greater scale than you. I just try to show them how my experience is. I call it my barbecue journey. Everybody's is different, but that's kind of the way that I try to approach it. Is just I like to be the person that can just show everybody what everybody's doing, including myself, and then bring everybody up and help them while I'm doing it.
That's great. And Jeff and Jill, you folks, you were really eloquent about talking about the folks who helped you get started. But I think you're also a resource for a lot of folks in the community now as well, right? Your support of Meat Fight is spectacular. I'm really excited about the number of people who've asked in the comments section about how do I donate or how do I get involved in
Great.
Meat Fight, and the number of DMs that I've received. A couple of people have reached out asking me how to get involved, and I think that's fantastic. Who do you see as the up and comers today that you think are going to be the leaders of the community looking forward?
Gracious. Well, I do have to share something funny. Yesterday, I was lucky enough to get to help judge the halal barbecue contest that happens down the street from our Plano location. And
Nice.
there was a guy that came up to me, and I think, oh, he's in DC and he smokes crab. I feel like it's Hal and Al's. I need to go back and double check that. Anyway, but he came up and he's like, hey, you guys are the OGs. I came to your place 12 years ago and you really inspired me. And now I learned how to do brisket, and he's rubbing it with Old Bay and also some Pakistani seasonings, if I remember correctly. So, I think it's that next innovative generation. I love what Joe's doing on Barbecue Distro. I mean, his videos crack me up, and the combination of all the different flavors and communities, and it's just going to be fantastic to see where it all goes. And the beautiful thing is, in Texas, there's room for all of us.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Al, you're doing a great job highlighting like the business side, the human side, what it takes behind the scenes. You move that curtain out of the way so the outsider can see what it's truly like. I mean, we're not just blessed with the right smoke, so to speak, and the gift. It's a learning experience. It's very humbling, and to be able to do it every day consistently is the biggest challenge. And you have good days, you have bad days. It's all handcrafted. Kenneth will tell you it's handcrafted. It's not pop it in the microwave, it comes out perfect. So, and the way you're approaching it is really cool. I really love the podcast. I was actually really blown away.
Thank you very much. I got to tell you, I'm blessed to be able to do this. I don't work nearly as hard as any of you folks do, and I admire what you do and how you do it and how you pull it through, and how you face adversity in ways that, I complain about trolls that leave nasty comments on my
Right.
videos. You've faced the ultimate trolls, who, by the way, for Jeff and Joel, I know everybody's watched that episode, and you know about the Dallas Morning News and the review that I after hearing the story and seeing it so much, I feel like that had to be a part of your success. Like, she actually created a fire in you, and in your customers that I think burns on, and you're probably more successful for it. I tried really, really hard to get Leslie to give me a cameo for the video, and we couldn't pull it off, but we were down to the day before the edit was final, was can I squeeze it in? And no, we just couldn't pull it off. But she's
How
actually
fascinating,
yeah,
because she's in food PR now. I
she is.
think that would have been a beautiful like tie-in with something for her.
Yeah, and we just couldn't make the schedule work, but she seems like it would have been fun to have her congratulate you on all of the success, despite the fact that you now have to have forks and sauce. So we've talked about some of the other folks in barbecue, and one of the questions that I'm really hoping is going to become a recurring segment on this podcast is what you folks like to eat. And so the question I want to ask each of you is, what's the best bite of barbecue you've had right now that's not made by somebody on this show? So
Wow.
no sucking up to somebody that's already on here, whether you've tasted Kenneth's food or not. What is it that you've tasted out there that you think is really setting the bar high? Kenneth, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, and I've tasted a whole lot of barbecue, especially in the last 2 years. I tried to always go try everywhere, but in the last 2 years, I've really got the opportunity to try a lot. And I want to give a big shout out to North Texas Smoke and Decatur. I think they've got some of the best barbecue going on out there, and they're out of just a food truck, but they're doing it awesome. And I think, yeah, shout out to them for sure.
Trey, what do you think? What's your go-to bite?
My go-to bite would probably be from Cadillacs, and that's the pastrami beef rib. Beef rib is right now probably my favorite bite, and that pastrami is just the different flavors. So yeah, I
That
gotta
is
say
good.
Cadillac, Todd David, pastrami beef rib for sure.
Good. I haven't been over there yet. So now that I hear pastrami and beef rib in the same sentence, I know that I will be making a
Phenomenal.
stop
Yeah.
on my next trip down there.
Yeah, it's killer.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Jeff and Jill, what do
Well,
you
I'll,
think?
I'll say, I mean, this is kind of a cliche, but I grew up with Kreitz Market as my benchmark. And so we do a trip annually down to the beach, and we drive through there, and I like to drop by there and taste it and just bring back memories. We all grew up like your favorite hamburger. Mine was Brahms. That was our go-to before we had Whataburger. So you just, sometimes in life, you just go back to what your benchmark was to remind you of things. And I like to touch base and talk to Roy and Keith and just go back down memory lane, so to speak.
Okay, wait,
That's
but I've
great.
got to throw in. So yesterday, I got to hang out with my new bestie CJ from Yearby's Barbecue, and we were getting to judge lamb shoulder. and all the creative ways that people were putting it together. Like there were lamb shoulder dumplings and like a chicken shawarma version with sweet balsamic and a little bit of vinegar and something. Anyway, there were just some really amazing things, and go try new places, y'all.
Wow. I love hearing that lamb shoulder. I tasted John Bates makes lamb shoulder at Interstellar that he actually showed us how to make, but the episode was so long that was one of the things that ended up having to get cut, and it was a shame because it was really delicious. And Andrew
I
from
see a whole extras channel for subscribers now.
that's
We talked
I
about
see
it.
a lot of stuff coming. There's a lot of behind the scenes footage. There's a lot of stuff that had to get cut, including from your episode that are stories that need to be told and food that needs to be talked about. And so yeah, I think we're gonna see some more stuff coming. Let me introduce somebody else who's on the call. Let me call up Travis, who's our producer of the show. So Travis and I have known each other for a long time. He's been producing the show for what, 5 or 6 months now, Travis?
Yeah, since
I
I guess
think.
Interstellar. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so Travis lives in Austin, and while I have to get on an airplane to come and taste Texas barbecue in Texas, Travis uh, gets to taste all of your food all the time.
We do.
So Trav, I put you on the spot
Sure.
on the last episode, and last time you were pretty excited about Wayne Miller's beef rib. Is there another taste that you want to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, very fortunate. I think I also mentioned Interstellar pork belly.
Oh, you
I did
right.
that one time. Wayne Miller's beef rib, but I'd also gotta say those ribs that we had at Style Switch were pretty hard to beat. And again, that's one of my places when I've got people in town. We'll always take them over to the Style Switch and get a little something, just because it's a big menu, lots of different items, and those ribs that we had were pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, Lance Kirkpatrick does a pretty amazing job over there at scale. Like
Yeah.
just the sheer volume of what they're putting out and ability to maintain a level of quality is pretty impressive over there. Um, I winced a little bit when you said ribs because I have my new favorite bite from somebody that's not on this call that is something that you tasted as well, and I thought you were going to take mine. But we coming up in a couple of weeks, we're going to actually next week we're gonna see the first of the 3-part series that we filmed at Jay's Barbecue Shack out at Abilene, and this is a guy who's out there innovating without a lot of help from other people and coming up with things that he tells the story of how he came up with this pig candy that he makes, that he was trying to make a bacon burnt end and thought he had mastered it until he finally got to taste somebody else's and went, oh no, that's not what I'm making
Right.
at all, but I'm still going to keep it. But he makes ribs with a cherry glaze that was like so surprising, and it's not a sticky rib, right? The cherry glaze actually absorbs in, and he calls he has a rub that he puts on it when he starts, but then he finishes it with something he calls his razzle dazzle rub. And I think those ribs were such a surprise. They might be my new favorite ribs, not made by somebody that's on this show. So if you guys ever get out to Abilene,
Are they
I would
spare ribs or baby back?
they are spare ribs. And he
Taking notes here, so to check it
yeah,
out.
well you're gonna see the recipe and how he makes it
Okay, cool.
in a couple of weeks. But those I people comment on my face, and I believe it or not, I used to play poker, and watching myself on these tasting videos, I can't imagine how I ever made any money at it because I can't really hold back what I think about things. But the
Right.
look on my face when I watched the draft of the tasting video and I bit into it, it stumped me. I'm like, what am I tasting here? I'm tasting fruit, but I couldn't place it, and really something unique there. So that's going to be a fun couple of episodes. Okay, so
Well,
as
you mentioned you had known Travis for a while. but I think I win in that category.
Oh, here we go.
You
Oh,
do.
yeah.
I do actually.
So now you brought that up. So you want to talk about the origin story and risk the visuals that Trav might have
No,
brought with him for the show?
I said,
He can put them in post later. He already showed them to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have the same haircut as I did in sixth grade. Yes, Travis and I went to middle school together. We discovered we did not go to elementary school together. We both grew up in lovely and scenic Temple, Texas.
that's right.
Temple.
We did. Middle school, and then you were gone
Nice.
for a year, and then you came back, and then we did high school together. We were 1 year apart, so I think I'm 1 year older.
That's a small world.
Yeah.
Very small world.
It's a
And
small world.
so Jill, since you brought it up, are there any embarrassing stories about Travis you'd like to
Here
share
we
for
go.
the internet to
please
hear
don't.
today?
Just remember, he can rebuttal.
He was a perfect angel, as was I.
That's right.
He agrees.
I don't know if anybody's buying that, but okay,
Yeah.
we'll go with that.
It's all right. You had my dad on, and he didn't embarrass me, so I'm not going to say anything.
You did a good job.
That's true.
So this is maybe a good segue as we talk about the old days and the new recipes to talk about tradition versus innovation, right? You know, the at Lockhart, you folks are carrying forward the traditions from the Kreitz market days, but you're certainly doing things very differently than they did. And like the I've never seen a chicken on a menu like the chicken that you guys make. You guys have created something like super special in there and some of the other things. You know, Trey, you're carrying forward some of the traditions from your family, but you're also thinking very forward. And Kenneth, you're seeing all the latest stuff. How do you think, you know, as we look at, you know, the last Texas Monthly Top 50, the new one's coming out in a couple of weeks, how much is tradition being preserved and how much is it being going by the wayside for this newfangled stuff? And are we okay with it?
You know, I gotta just pay respect to the traditional barbecue in general, because without that, then you know all the creative stuff and everything like that wouldn't happen. It wouldn't even be necessary for people to be thinking about doing. And you know, I think a thing that, as far as like, this is just my thoughts on it, craft barbecue or you know newer age barbecue, I think people are really worrying about showing their story, and there's so much uh so many different backgrounds and stories and histories and all that into cooking, that I think that's really coming into play with a lot of this barbecue now, which you know it can be appreciated still, you know, just in its own way. I think that's kind of my take on what's happening.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, traditional, you know, that's obviously what we are. To me, I go to these, you know, big festivals and get togethers, and so many guys, I call it chefy. I don't even know if
Hmm.
that's a word, but you see so many chefs getting into this, and they're creative. And I'm not a chef. I've never been, I consider myself a cook. John Mueller, we come from the same background from Louis Mueller's, and he worked with us for about 6 to 7 months. And, you know, we both, you know, we were just kind of, we appreciate what's going on with the craft scene. We appreciate these people that are getting very, very creative with different menu options. And even us, as far as, you know, create like a habanero peach sausage, blueberry maple sausage. We got a Frito chili pie sausage. We do that
Yeah,
samples
that
in the
one's good.
winter. And then a Philly
I like that one.
cheesesteak. So we do, you know, kind of, I don't want to say mess with them. We definitely create those. We'll sell them out on weekends. We're doing, stole this from Todd David, the pastrami beef rib. Did some last week, phenomenal. We're doing some Wagyu pastrami brisket. So, you know, we're definitely trying to just change a few things, but we'll never get. I don't believe we could ever get away from being completely traditional. From, you know, we have 11 sides, but essentially the beans, potato salad, coleslaw, the holy trinity, the brisket, ribs, and sausage is, that's our staple. And that's, but you know, throwing a few things in there, we don't feel like we have to do that, but it's just, it's kind of bringing all these foodies and top of mind for it. So
We have Andrew, who again is from Sydney, Australia, and he's he's jumping in and would like to ask a question. So I'm gonna let Andrew in right now.
Yeah, let's go ahead, Andrew. Let's bring him on. There he is. Hey, Andrew.
Howdy, Al. Finally, after a bit over 4 years. It was actually your fifth video. I had a look earlier, not your fourth video. That was the lamb shoulder.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
You published it on September 2020. I think it was possibly January 2021 that I found it when I got my
Amazing.
first charcoal barbecue.
I can't watch those videos anymore. They were so
And of
creepy.
course, but Jeff and Jill, where did Patrick come from?
Patrick's joined our team. We've had a bit of a staff turnover, probably right after COVID. So it's kind of been, I mean, shockingly enough, a 5-year rebuilding period. So Patrick does have a chefy background, but he's really taken to the history and the traditions well, and he's done some really cool innovations. You were talking about the burnt ends. One of the things he came up with, which is so simple but so eloquent, is a bacon-wrapped burnt end, which really should come with a cardiologist warning. But it puts all the unctuousness and a little bit of crisp and beauty in. Yeah, so we've been really lucky to have Patrick, and we think we're building a nice team around him.
Cool. He was, yeah, some of those things looked amazing.
We have gone through guys who have grown up with barbecue, have a barbecue background, may have worked for Hutchins or another place. I'm not saying they did, Trey, but I'm just
No,
giving an
Don't
analogy.
bet anybody with Trey.
It doesn't work in our system. They want to reinvent. You know, I came from Hutchins. They have 7, 8 different pits. I don't like your smoker. We need to get this one and this one so I can do my thing. So they try to reinvent everything, and it's a pain in the ass to work with that. So we decided to go the other route and go. We had a pitmaster, Will Fleshman, that was a culinary chef, and it worked out well. So we went back to the old drawing board and said, why don't we find a culinary chef that is good with meat and comes in and learns the system and then takes it to another level. And so that takes a little patience. It's like a lighting a fire. You got to wait for it and wait for it and wait for it, but it does grow over time. And so we just went back to the drawing board, and he has been a blessing. So
Nice.
Great question. Thanks, Andrew. I look forward to seeing you on the next one, Andrew, or the next question that you ask. And thanks for all your support. So, Kenneth, you frequent a lot of different places. Do you see this trend towards chefiness as a trend that's going to continue? You see it as a positive?
I think it's just something that is not going to go away, but I think it makes, for me, I speak for myself, and, I think a lot of other people, you enjoy the trending cooks and everything, but at the end of the day, you want to get back to like real barbecue, like there's only so much of that extra stuff you can have. And when it comes down to it, I just want some coleslaw, some potato salad, some ribs, some brisket. And then, every now and again, when you go out with some other people in a different area, maybe you're not from there or something, but maybe you want to try, the trending barbecue. But at the end of the day, I still feel like the bar is set with traditional barbecue.
Absolutely. But the other thing to keep in mind is, too, this is Texas. And in the restaurant industry, it is such a challenging industry. And
Yeah.
one thing that does well for the most part in Texas is barbecue. So I think that's why we have seen an explosion of places. Some great, some not so great. But the beautiful thing is now you can easily do a DFW barbecue tour and take all day.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Right here on 380 in Princeton. On 380 in Princeton, from McKinney, Princeton to Farmersville, I could probably tell you there's like 5 barbecue food trucks right here. It's a you could go anywhere and turn around. It's not a bad situation to be in, to be able to see barbecue thriving like that.
So I want to go back. Can I go back to what Trey alluded to on getting back to innovation and
Of course.
tradition? I think we all start off as tradition, and we try to. That's the hardest part to keep. and to do the 5 things very well. The Trinity, that is a challenge every day. You go to a chef and go, you just got 3 things. How can you screw it up? But it's all handcrafted and whatnot. And the innovation comes from inspiration. And we do poppers. We don't call them Texas Twinkies because my best friend, that's his name for them. But we were inspired by him watching how many they sell a day, and we blow them out. We sell the heck of them. So thank you, Trey. And just like said, he was inspired by the pastrami beef rib. So that's how the innovation comes around, because we go around and get inspired by each other on, hey, they're doing it this way. Let's try it and see what happens. You never know. So
When you look forward, Trey, do you find it hard to um, uh, do you find it hard to leave the traditions behind? Do your customers allow you to do it, or do they embrace it?
No, and going, Jeff and them bringing, a chef into their establishments to, maybe recreate or bring some new things to the menu. For us, tradition will always be the go-to, as long as business is doing what it's doing. Not to get sideways, but going back to John Mueller, and even with traditional barbecue, John Mueller, when he come to work for us in, was it 2021 in June, John wasn't well. He was, not in good health at all. And so we really kind of got to know each other more. We had more fun talking about family drama than we did about smoking, the, but me and most mornings we're up there at 4:30 in the morning and we're just talking family. But Friday mornings, Saturday mornings, we're out there in these big barrel pits. That's all he's ever cooked on, and it was really so impressive. We're low and slow. We've got the big M&M J&R 1,000-gallon or rotisseries. We're 225. John is out there 350, 375, puts the heat to it. And it was so impressive. In my mind, I'm like, okay, this meat is going to be, the tomahawk pork chops, just anything, brisket. And I'm like, this is going to be just completely dry. And he was absolutely amazing. It was all traditional for him. He took so much pride in it. And his food was coming off extremely moist, probably more so than our rotisserie pits, which I was like, how is this guy doing this? And John was such a traditionalist and one of those guys that I talked to him. I said, John, you ever going to put another place in? He said, man, nobody will ever touch my pits. And so, we're talking and he's seeing the scale of what we do. And, here in Frisco, we've got 10 of those 1,000 rotisseries. We've got 4,000-gallon barrels, 3 500s. And on weekends, these things are full, right? So, and for me to say, I can't touch 3,500 briskets a week, right? I can't, even come close to that. So we've got, these huge teams in both stores that are making this happen for us. But for John, it's all about tradition. And so I would see the way we talked about his business and the scale for his business. And he said he would never put another restaurant in because he was done with the pit and he literally would never let anybody smoke his meat for him. So I admire that. It's a completely different scale than what we do and what our goals for the future is. But yeah, it was very unique and very traditional. But even with that, just a completely different cooking method than what we use at Hutchins. So pretty impressive.
Well, that reminds me of the pits at Kreitz. I mean, and Louis Mueller was the same. They're the wood built
Yes.
in, and they can go much hotter and
Right.
faster than
Yeah.
the ones we have now for fire code safety.
Sure.
So yeah, the tradition, so look at us. We're calling ourselves traditional, but we've even innovated on the traditional, right, Trey?
That's old school. That's old school tradition that
Yeah,
you're
and
talking.
Jeff, I learned really besides the old pit that Dad had there's no brand to it. This thing was not even insulated. But after that pit at Roy Smokehouse, our first 3 pits were the A and Bewley, that 11-foot, the same one you guys use.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I learned how to cook on that, and they're not easy. Those flat racks are
No.
definitely not easy. So
No, they're not.
I don't want to say the rotisseries are easy, but they're definitely a little more manageable, no
Forgiving.
doubt.
Yeah. Ricky used to say, we can pop those pits up really hot. I can do a brisket 48 hours. And I'm like, no way. And it'd be moist, but it's the old
Yeah,
school
yeah,
way.
sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I want to ask Trey one question, Trav, before we bring on audience questions, if that's all right.
Of course.
So Trey, how much of what you learned from John with some of those hot and fast methods, et cetera, were you able to adopt for the long term, versus only having him for the 6 months while he was doing it himself?
Just not really anything that we've infused to our company or to our pit guys, because it's a totally different method. I do know now I will personally get out there if I'm just, messing around on a Friday morning or Saturday morning. That's kind of when I like to get in there. And if we're going to be doing some, some stuff, testing some stuff, is the beef rib. I really like cooking my beef rib really, really hot. And so that's definitely the one thing I will take away from John Mueller. But yeah, we've been doing it so long, and I'm not afraid to get out of habits, and our guys are not, but it's working for us. The product's there, so. But John it was intriguing watching him. He was definitely phenomenal, and John took so much passion. I know this is not about John, but he definitely left a mark. The little bit of time I got to know this guy, he left a mark on me. And John, when he would pull the meat out, he'd cut it up, and he would just watch your expression. And it just, you didn't have to say a word. He knew by your expression what the product was. And it meant so much to you. Just, just your expressions on your face. And that was from Tim coming over, or because John was with me in Frisco, and, Dad would swing by. And so I just love watching him watch the expressions. And a couple of times my dad come in, he goes, "Well, John, that's not very good." And John would, he'd go in the back and he says, "Terry, I think your old man's lost it." And I said, "I totally agree, John, 100%. So we had a lot of
Love
fun
it.
with smoking, and like I say, more so family drama. We had a blast, so it was all good.
You were probably just a lifesaver for him there for the last 6 months, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Me and John, I've been doing, exercise and push-ups, and so he had started getting back there in the dining room with me in the mornings, and he was trying his hardest. He was getting down, man. He was getting about 10, 12, and so he was really, really trying. And he was doing his devotionals every morning, and it seemed like he had just started really getting better. And obviously, it happened, and it was heartbreaking. John was because I knew John from a distance. I knew, Daniel Vaughn had him labeled as the Dark Prince. And so
Right.
it was kind of weird because him and Daniel Vaughn had this, he would, make these, and so much of it was due to due to drinking. And he'd make these comments all over social media, which y'all guys all know this. But it was just they had a weird, or their relationship was definitely friends. And he would be back there on the phone just laughing and talking. And he's like, "Yeah, man, that's Daniel Vaughn." And so they just had a great relationship, but all off the social media platforms. But on the platforms, he was just one of those guys, had that attitude. But yeah, I just thought of him as a complete jerk, being honest. I mean, and I told him that. And we went up to see him one time, and it was probably 11 o'clock. And this was in Austin. He got his food truck, not too far from the barbecue at the time. And we there was five of us, me and my brother. We had about three guys with us, buddies. And so we're waiting. It's after 11 o'clock, and he just kind of come up to the fence and looked at us and said, "Guys, I'm going to open whenever I open." So that was my interaction with John Mueller. And I was like, "Dude, this guy, what a jerk." And so that's what I knew about John Mueller. I respected him. I
Right, right,
knew,
right.
he was essentially the godfather of craft barbecue, right? That little stand. But yeah, it was cool. So getting to know him as a person, yeah, it definitely impacted me, and it was a great experience. So yeah, a lot of fun.
Travis, you said you've got some questions from the live studio audience.
I do. I've got one from everybody, and so we'll go ahead and go in kind of a reverse order. So Andrew asked another question. He was saying, "How in the heck do you source that many briskets in a week? I mean, what are the tricks for how you source all your meat?"
That's really been a big challenge for us because we've had a couple of programs, Aspen Ridge and Open Prairie. So as our prime briskets, and there's commodity primes everywhere. We've tried those, but it's really been a challenge. So over the last, we took 100% of Aspen Ridge Prime. We started that program with JBS in 2016. So we committed to taking all of their prime, and we've done since. But our business has outgrown the program. So, instead of them providing us 300 cases to now needing, maybe 600 plus cases a week. And then obviously what's going on in the cattle industry, that's backed off. So we got some different products in. We got some Swift Prime, and that wasn't our standard. So over the last 7 or 8 months, speaking of, we've brought in Mishima Reserve, Winter Frost. This is all Wagyu. So, me and Tim I said, Tim, I'm not going to, I don't want to go backwards on that commodity prime. I'd rather pay $1.50, $2 more a pound. And instead of that, from Aspen Ridge and Open Prairie, instead of our fillers being a commodity prime, I'd rather it be a Wagyu. So we've got Snake River, Mishima Reserve, Winter Frost, and now Creekstone has we're using a lot of their prime, but now they've got a Wagyu and every one of them are they're top tier. So to the question, definitely a huge challenge, but I don't want to say every day, but Friday and Saturday we get our pars. We know when our vendors can, and the thing about what we do with our product is, even the Wagyu, we slack it out over 45 days. And so Dr. Jeff Sable, good buddy of ours, I shouldn't say buddy, he's phenomenal guy. We've been to his house at A&M and considered one of the top meat scientists in the world. So I guess about 4 years ago, he was like, we do a 45-day wet age. We'll go to 40. But he was telling us that, they've done every testing under the sun. There is no way that 45 days is going to break the muscle down in the crop. And for us, we've done it for years. And I said, Dr. Jeff, I totally, understand what you're saying, but we've just done our own testing. And for us, it's a difference. So all of our, vendors, we make them slack that out for us at 40, 45 days. So we've got to be all over it. And so we're not talking, I want to say 5, 6 days a week. We're talking brisket, we're talking source. And like I say, that's what this Wagyu. So a huge challenge. But brisket definitely is that's our thing. I don't want to say it's what makes or breaks us. But even on the food part, food labor, we're not really so much worried about that. It's me and Tim. So, we don't have corporate. We don't have, our accounting guys, your protein's a little, we're 2 or 3% up, but we're putting out a superior product. We know we're going to get that back tenfold. And that's been our business model for 12, 13 years now. And it's worked. So, back in the day, we had to run a certain P&L. If we didn't, we would sit down and have some heart to heart with management. Our managers see in our meetings every week, they see numbers. I never talk about food and labor. The volume's there and it falls into place. And that goes to sourcing, to me, the best brisket we can possibly bring in the store. So that's for Hutchins BBQ anyways.
So
Awesome.
Jill and Jeff, before you folks answer, Trey, I've heard at least half of the people that I talk to in the barbecue business have told me that briskets become a loss leader for them, that they don't even try to generate a profit on brisket because it's so expensive and there's a limit to what they can sell it for, that they try to extract their profit from the other meats and sides. At that kind of volume, are you able to keep brisket profitable, or are you running that close to the line too?
Yeah, no, our beef, we run a food cost and we will combine it, but we have a separate, we have literally a brisket percentage that we definitely look at. But no, for us, we definitely have to make a profit on our brisket. So we're $35.99. So I noticed Franklin had went up the other day, but yeah, we're pretty much as expensive as anybody out there, and we have to be, and like I say, not just to make money, but really just to cover where we're not going in the hole. In COVID, for instance, our company, even though we were closed down for 14 weeks during COVID, with our, we had our makeshift drive-throughs. in Frisco, added some drive-throughs in McKinney. Our company grew, but because of the protein, the briskets were so high, we did not go up on prices. So business was like this. The bank accounts were like this, strictly due to brisket. And I told me and my brother Tim talked, and I said, hey, people are hurting, people are suffering. And obviously our business was growing because so many restaurants were shut down. Thankfully barbecue is picnic, right? Barbecue travels. It's very good to go. You don't want to go get a $50 steak and put it in a to-go box and take it home. So, we benefited off that, but definitely the bank accounts completely went down. But we didn't go up on I think we were $28 a pound for brisket, if that much. I'd have to look. But yeah, we just knew if we take care of everybody, take care of the community during this tough time, that it'll come back. And thank the good Lord, we're not doing everything close to right, but it seems like most little things or most big things that we've changed through the years. Um, I thank the good Lord, it's worked for us. It's definitely worked for us at Hutchins, and still to this day, it's working. So good stuff.
So, Jill and Jeff, is it a challenge for you to keep up with the brisket demand and to do it profitably?
I want to go back to Trey because that's where Trey and I became business partners behind the scenes during
Yes,
COVID.
sir.
Trey, you remember those phone calls?
Yes, sir.
What are you buying? Where are you buying it? How much are you paying for it? Do they have enough for both of us to share? We were calling each other, giving each other, here, call this guy. He's got X amount of cases. We both talked about keeping our prices under $30 just to keep the business going, whether it was profitable or not. It kept the doors open and kept paying our labor of our team. And so that's our relationship. You can see how transparent he is. And so when we talk business all the time. I do 40 to 45 days the same as him because of him. Because we went in and they said, this really works. It breaks it down. We tested it out. And sure enough, it did. And he's like, hey, we got a new brisket we're trying out right now. It's really good. Y'all should get in on it. So we have some same suppliers. So that has helped us out a whole lot. And just the fact that he and I can, sometimes he's on the couch and I'm listening, and sometimes I'm on the couch, he's listening. So you got to have brothers in barbecue to be able to get through this stuff. And it's a day to day. I think, for us, it wasn't so much COVID. We figured that out. And thank God we were a takeout place. 80, 90%, 75% of our people that come in take it out the door. So that helped us out a whole lot. I think the hardest part was after COVID, supply and demand. Prices, you
100%.
never knew.
Yes, same.
We were talking every day. Did your brisket just go up 50 cents a pound? Yeah, it did. Well, nobody told me it was going to happen. What's going on? Should we move on to something else? Do we, how much are you in it for? And, but yeah, supply and demand, still to this day, there is a little bit of that.
And the whack-a-mole of, what's going to be the supply chain snafu next?
Yeah. So now I spend all my time studying economic trends, cattle rancher trends. I talk to cattle ranchers, asking what's going on. There are trends on when prices are going to go up and down. The summer heat affects, cattle feed and the feedlots and stuff like that. You start really diving into the micro part of the business. I know my economics professors would really love me right now, but these are the conversations Trey and I have.
But now going off the prime brisket, and Kenneth may want to chime in on this, but 20 or 15 years ago, 2% was prime. And so, part of it is every week, seems like every day, I'm probably exaggerating, but it's like nearly every week. Kenneth knows this more than me. There is a craft barbecue joint coming up. So these guys and they're seeing what other guys are doing, right? So all of us got information overload, and go to YouTube, and you can see what everybody's doing. But so 15 years ago, 2% was prime. So today, 11 to 12% is prime. But retail, you had Costco probably 5 years ago just started getting in the prime. So now you've got, Walmart's got their new comparable to HEB. So you've got all these retail chains now, not just bringing brisket in, select, but they're bringing prime. So the market for prime brisket, besides the cattle market being down, the market for prime brisket is completely drying up. And I seen this about a year ago, not me, but the guys are forecasting this. And so essentially that's what got us going towards this the Wagyu programs is because there's the demand's not out there. Nobody wanted to pay $7, $8, $9, for Snake River, right? I think Snake River today is about
Mhm.
$8.80 a pound. But so now we've got some top tier Wagyu that are they're Elf ones and they're $5.85 a pound. So, we're not too far off that. And just to let you know,
No, it's
Jeff,
not.
you're paying. I know I'm paying 535 for my Aspen Ridge Prime, so we're not too far off from that Prime. And because Prime, the supply's there, and right now for Wagyu, the supply's not there. So that's
Yeah.
So
Hutchins'
when
direction
he's
anyway.
paying
That's
that
what we're
price,
doing.
everybody else is paying $2 more a pound because he buys large quantities. So that's when I go, hey Trey, can I piggyback
Maybe
on
a
the
little
next?
bit, yeah.
So
You know what
Kenneth,
though, Jeff? I don't think I've ever, because obviously during COVID, a lot of us barbecue guys, we're getting together, we're texting, and because the pricing, right? What Jeff's talking about, you see briskets move 50 to 80 cents in 1 week. You're like, man, that ain't right. These guys are, they're getting us on the back end, right? Let me go talk to this guy. But no, it's definitely it's a challenging thing. But brisket is our most challenging thing in our business by far.
Mhm.
so Kenneth, in the group, probably the most common, I won't say negative comment because you're really good about not allowing the negativity, but one of the most common challenges that people talk about is brisket pricing, right?
Mhm.
Is how am I going to go and pay 35, 36, $38 a pound for brisket? How do we help those folks to understand nobody's getting rich off a brisket because of these things? Is there
I think
more
it comes down
transparency?
to all the fine details that go into making a brisket. People just want to talk about, oh, I just bought a pound of brisket for this price. Well, in order to make that brisket, there was labor, there was, overhead costs for where that smoker was, there was smoker costs, there was wood costs. And so I joke about it all the time. If I don't do anything as large as y'all do, obviously, but when I do a catering job, and I tell them how much it is, I'm like, I'm making like $8.25 an hour. It's like, I'm making like,
Yeah,
at the end of the
yeah,
day. So like, if anybody needs to start complaining, no, I'm just playing. But no, it's like $8.25 an hour at that point. But I just told somebody the other day, on the group, they were complaining about prices, and I was like, you know what? I really want you to go open a barbecue place and let's revisit this topic in 8 months. And that's if you're lucky enough to be in the business for 8 months.
yeah,
The thought process. You're also, it's like charging for a master electrician or just the guy that's just an intern. You're charging for the knowledge, you're charging for the consistency. There's a lot of variables that go into that pound price. So, I think it takes people to really appreciate the actual skill set first off for barbecue to understand the price. But then if you actually pay attention to the price of meat, then there's no way that you can't explain that that's what it should be worth.
And that's been the label of barbecue all along, that it was something that was kind of cheap and easy.
Hmm.
I think in these
Affordable.
affordable.
There, I
All
see.
right, perfect. There you go. Let's not call it that. But now that we're kind of, we're almost getting to the part where it's wow, it's a steakhouse price. I
Right.
mean, and the customer isn't always willing to go along with that.
Yeah, we used to compete against burger joints, pizza joints, taco joints, and now it's
Hmm.
I'll tell you, we compete against the steakhouses because that's the same price. So it's tough for. Go ahead, Trey.
and I think a lot of that is Jeff that a lot of times barbecue it's the serve style, the atmosphere is kind of fast food, but it's everything but fast food, right? But it kind of falls into that, yeah. Swing by, grab a barbecue sandwich, run through a drive-through, run in and grab a to-go order. So yeah, it's but it's not fast food. It's yeah.
No. Very expensive.
No,
We had our
I was
food
gonna
truck
go ahead.
for 2.5 years. And people were like, why are y'all only open 3 days? And I'm like, well, to be open 3 days, we're actually kind of open 6 days. You know, it's like, cause I have to cook the day before, you know, and then we close and we're cooking for the next day, you know, so it's like just to be open 3 days, you need to be open 6 on the behind the scenes part of it in order to do it. So, you know, my hat's off to y'all completely for doing that all the time.
Yeah, a funny story. My mom, a funny story about pricing, real quick. My mom, she'll come to Frisco, but she lives closer to McKinney, so she'll just go through the drive-through. And when she told me this, I was like, "Mom, come on!" But anyway, she's going to grab some food, take it to a couple of her sisters, and she's like, "Trey," pulled up there, and she goes, "I got 2 sandwiches," and it wasn't much food at all, right? And 2 sandwiches, a pound of brisket, I forget what it was, and she goes, "It was $127." And I said, "Well, you didn't pay for that, did you?" She goes, and I was like, "Mom, come on, you know," but she was talking about how expensive it was. And I'll do that. I'll run over to go if I'm buying a buddy or something. I'm like, "Hey, ring me up this." And of course, I got to sign the ticket. And I'm like, "Good Lord, it's expensive at this place. What's going on, man?" But it is. Barbecue is expensive, no doubt about it.
It is.
When the owner gets sticker shock, it's expensive.
Right.
But but you know, when I say that, you know, you used to could go through Whataburger, you know, any place, and but everything right now. I mean, you're going to go to Whataburger, 20 bucks a person. So right now, our
Oh, yeah.
average ticket per person is about 30 bucks per ticket per person. So yeah, in retrospect, that's not that. It's not that bad. I don't think so. Don't. I hope people hear this and come to Hutchins, whatever you do, and Lockhart and Candid
That's right.
Place. Yeah, for
Well,
God's
well,
sake.
I don't know
well
if you
speaking
I
of
don't
going
know
to
if you
those
know this,
places,
Trey, or not, but our very first meet and eat was at y'all's McKinney location for the Facebook group. That was our very first, I call them meet and eats, where
Really,
we get our groups together. Yep, that was our very first meet and eat.
that's
Was
so
at
cool.
was at
That's
your
so
McKinney
Very
cool.
cool.
location
Yeah, super
back in
cool. And Kenneth,
2016.
yeah,
That would be Tim's location, right, Trey?
yes, that's well. We're partners, but Tim's always in
I
McKinney.
know.
Yeah,
I'm
hundred
just
percent.
messing with you.
No. That's we. Me and Tim always say that. You know, Tim's. You know, we feel like that as brothers, as partners. That you know, Frisco McKinney is his baby, and Frisco's
Right.
my baby.
I
But no,
know.
Kenneth, thank you for that. And you know, when I talk about this volume of briskets, and you know, that's I'm humbled by that. But guys like Kenneth, and his, you know, his North Texas barbecue addicts, those are truly, man, the guys that are out here fueling this barbecue train that's running down the tracks from Jelf and all of us. And, you know, for us to have these storefronts that people can walk into, but I truly, I can't give enough props for the social media platforms and truly the guys. I don't know how many times people are always walking, man. Yeah, heard them guys talking, and it ain't always positive, and that's the beautiful thing about social media. But they're always, you know, "Hey man, I heard about you guys from North Texas Barbecue Addicts are talking about you." So yeah, it's like I say, man. I want to thank you guys for you and your team doing what you do, and that's really cool. I did not know that was your first get together. So cool stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I still live in Princeton, like, you know, and I mean, literally, that's so before I went full time into social media, I actually worked right behind the DMV right there on Highway 5 at a door and hardware construction office, and we would go eat Hutchins at that McKinney location at least once a month as a team. And I mean, I'd had it several times before that, but it's always been a good go to for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hey, Trey, you guys all kind of touched on something that ties in with a question that we have from the audience. And so Karen wants to know, in regards to destination barbecue and barbecue tourism, so you have people that are traveling from 2, 10, 15 hours away to come and visit your places, or maybe a couple. And what's the best way to travel with that? How do you keep it fresh? How do you keep it great? Like if you're taking it home back to your family for your own leftovers, or if you're taking it back for friends, like how do you travel with barbecue?
Well, if it's a big volume thing, I mean, I'd ask for, if you want to take a whole brisket, ask for it to be vacuum sealed.
Vacuum seal it.
Okay.
We have people that go on a flight all the time and take it to wherever. So we vacuum pack it, and they ice it down somehow. I'm not going to say it's dry ice or anything because that's not appropriate for an airplane. But we hand it to them, and they put it in some kind of cooler, and they take it on a plane.
For
So
us, we have we ship on GoBelly, which is huge for us. We do tons of shipping, and but as far as the store, we have a little ice or little freezer up front with frozen product. We have the little thermal bags. If they want to purchase one of those, if they're, going to run out to the lake, fish, or they're heading off to the deer lease, I think that really, really goes well. But just if they're taking, I guess Kevin was asking if they're taking, you know, I guess leftovers are just coming in and getting a big bulk order. He travels good, and to me, for me, when I go out on big catering jobs and we're at the end of the day, uh, every piece of meat gets better to me. The brisket is better. The sausage is better. So yeah, a 4 or 5, 10 hour rest pretty much on any of our meats, ribs, for if they stay together, they're packaged properly. To me, the longer the meats rest, mainly brisket, but it gets better. So that's, yeah.
So will you slice it and vacuum seal it, or slice it and pack it to go, or will you sell them a whole brisket and have them heat and slice it after
Yeah,
resting
if
it?
you're going to do vacuum seal, we have a blast freezer which chills it down really quick, but that's strictly, they're going to buy it frozen, and we're going to keep it whole. We don't slice that.
Yeah.
Always
It won't. It won't. Once it's sliced, it lives as a little magic traveling.
Good.
It
All
still
right, so
means well.
people don't.
It still means well.
They don't- That's right. So we don't need to buy warmers and generators to put in our cars and travel with Cambros. We've got better solutions.
A cooler's always a good thing.
Cool.
Yeah, awesome. So that's a
No,
great
you're
question.
right.
Thanks, Karen. And by the way, for those of you who are watching and you want to be able to ask these questions, whether you come on the screen like Andrew did or ask questions like Travis is answering here, just hit that join button. If you're on an iOS device on YouTube, you actually can't hit that join button because there's that Apple tax. So look in the description for the link or on the channel page for the link for how to join, because love to have more folks in the studio audience. Great. Any other questions before we get to wrapping, Travis?
Yeah, just real quick. And I think we've got a little bit of jealousy with our folks, friend Lee in North Carolina, and you certainly can help with some of the local places. But Lee in North Carolina wants to know, how do we get more of the Texans to move out his way so they can start establishing more of these barbecue joints closer by?
I'll be in North Carolina in 10 days.
Hey, there you go.
Actually. So,
Contact Kenneth. He'll vacuum seal and bring it all up.
we'll bring it with. We'll bring it with.
And John Lewis in North Carolina.
John Lewis is in South Carolina.
South Carolina.
I got my
Carolina,
Carolina.
yeah. That's okay.
Yeah, we've got a couple of good places here as well, and I know that Lee has had the opportunity to taste some of them. Kenneth, are you coming out towards Raleigh? Are you going to be my neck of the woods?
I'm gonna be in Wilmington. I'll be out in Wilmington. So I got invited to it's a 2-part event. One is open completely to the public for free, and it's at the Ace Hardware out there. And then the next one is for a private event. So me and another content creator called Cooking with Kunshi out in Florida, we're linking up and doing like steak dinner and stuff like that one night. And then we're gonna do like a barbecue type experience the next day.
All right, it's only a couple hours for me, so I guess I'll be heading to
man.
Wilmington. I'll just check
Yeah,
my
come
inbox for that invite, Kenneth. I'm ready
I'll send
for
you
it.
the flyer. It'd be awesome to see it.
So awesome. All right. So we talked about old, we talked about new. One of the things that was kind of fun on the last one of these episodes was we talked about going too far and how far is too far. And there's a lot of trends in the barbecue business. I went last time. I'm going to jump in first this time because I was actually appalled at a barbecue joint that I stopped at on my way back from Tennessee. And they actually had vegan options on the menu, and they had something they called tofu burnt end. And I'm telling you, I do not ever want to see tofu in a barbecue joint anywhere on planet Earth ever again. So for me,
Good.
the tofu and barbecue joints has to stop. So I'm going to go around again, and as we close here, just ask, what is the trend that you're seeing that we just don't need to do anymore?
For me,
Trey, you want to start? Yeah.
and we probably will have a couple of top 10 barbecue joints that have this, and they have a vegan menu. that bothers me in this news. It really, like I say, no knock on them. There's probably two that will be in the top 10, if not number one. So, but yeah, I don't know why that just, yeah, we're all about protein. So yeah, that's
Mhm.
mine.
That's right. The cows were vegan. We don't need to be, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
they were really adamant about it.
That's my,
Yeah.
right. That's my take. So
Cool. Jill, Jeff, what do you think needs to stop?
Oh, I don't even know. I can't say vegan now, huh?
I'm going to say vegan. I agree with Trey.
Yeah, there you go. It's just
just
the easy way out.
We always say we have Texas vegetarian because vegetarians come and go, well, we don't have anything. And we
just
we
hit a
have Texas
nerve.
vegetarian.
No, I
It's
just hit a
chicken.
nerve. Jill and Jeff with their new chef, they're putting the vegan menu in right now. I apologize,
Oh,
guys. Am I right,
no.
Jeff?
We'll stick
I-
to our
Come
Texas
on, Jeff.
vegetarian of chicken.
Yeah, chicken and
I can
turkey.
tell
Texas
Jeff and Jill was
vegetarian.
like,
That's it.
okay, we got this vegan menu coming. So
Well,
if
I'm
y'all
gonna-
do
one of the
guys,
things I love
I don't
about
hold it
Jill and
against you.
well,
To
their
make tofu
menu
or
actually
things around.
says vegetarian. It says Texas vegetarian on the menu, but that's where they put the
Right.
chicken and turkey. So I felt like that was okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you have it too,
That's about
Trey.
as vegetarian as it needs, right?
That's right. So Kenneth, you're seeing everybody posting all this crazy stuff in the group. What is the trend that you just have seen enough of already?
You know, one of my things is just renaming things that have already been. You know, like that's one of my biggest pet peeves. So, like, there's a terminology out there that's called just keep flipping method. You know, I call that grilling. You know, so I'm just like, you know, things like that where, you know, terms are just being made
I
up
agree.
for processes that have already been. You know, things like that really kind of irk me a little bit. I'm like, that's just grilling. Or, you know, the, you know, 0 to 400, again, we're talking grilling, you know, so things like that. I mean, I don't buy into the names of them because that's what we've been doing for a long time. I think, you know, it's gotten to where people just think, you know, let me put a name on this and it's something new. So I think for me, it's more so like just, let's be real. It's the same thing. It's you know, like it's not, you know,
Yeah.
just keep flipping method, things like that, or think, you know, it's just grilling. Anything that comes down to something like that, I just think it's overplayed with names and stuff.
Trav, you have
Agree.
any new peeves you want to share with us?
No, nothing new. I think you guys covered it all with the kale and tofu and vegan barbecue menu items. So
All right. So ending on a little bit of a serious note, you know, we're lucky to have folks that are OGs here, right? You guys have been out fighting the fight since before barbecue was cool. When you're done, when you've left your mark on Texas on barbecue, what do you want people to say about you? What do you want your legacy to be? Trey, you want to start?
I think for me, just building a culture with my team, and you know, with the volume we do, the hours we're open. Obviously, I don't get to touch every table. I don't get to touch every customer, but you know, through the years, I've built so many relationships, and you know, it's like guys are texting me nearly all day, every day. I'm coming to your place, man. I can't wait. Are you going to be there? And so, yeah, unfortunately, you know, I'm not with the hours that we are open, but just that they look back and just say that, man, we really not me and not just the Hutchins family, that a culture that we have with our staff, that you know, we're family, we're friendly. I have people coming in all the time. I say, man, I've ate here. I like this particular thing, and but you guys just make me feel like family. So yeah, that's that we're just, and I teach my guys, even salesmen that walk in, and my managers, just, man, treat people the way you want to be treated. And these guys are going to go down to the next place, and we don't want nobody to say, man, them guys at Hutchins, man, what jerks. And no. We're going to treat
Right.
people the way we want to be treated. So yeah, that's what I want people to think of when they think of Hutchins. Hey,
That's a wonderful answer. And before I move on to Kenneth and Jill and Jeff, I've one more question for you, Trey. Will you let Travis and I and the team come down there and interview you guys and teach us what makes you special and let us produce an episode on Hutchins?
man, we would be honored. I seen yours with with Ari, I guess, and then Jeff and Jill. And yeah, you guys are, man, it's a phenomenal work. Like, it's a phenomenal job. About as good as I've ever seen. So, yeah, we'd be honored to have you guys out. We'll have a blast.
Thank you,
Now,
man.
we won't be able to
I really
present
want
as
to
well
tell that
as
story.
Jeff, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
What,
I
Trey? Trey, I have to warn you.
Yes.
He wants to make you cry.
Well,
So
I'm
just be
going to,
prepared.
yeah, I'm going to call Jeff before they come out. So I know what I'll be prepared.
We'll,
I'll
we'll
definitely
prep
be
you.
prepared. Thank
You'll
you.
be
Thank you. I
prepared.
appreciate that. That's what friends are for.
well,
But yeah, we'd love to have you
thank you, Trey.
guys for
I
sure.
will
100%.
Thank you. I will reach out and we'll get that on the schedule because I think your story is pretty amazing. And as I've gotten to know you today, I really want to tell that story. So thank you for that.
Awesome.
So Kenneth, I'm going to come to you next on the legacy question. You've already created something that will last, right? In your community, you've built, I think, probably the largest community in barbecue on social media in terms of folks interacting with each other. And I think you've done, from my perspective, a great job of keeping it positive in attitude, et cetera. But you're a whippersnapper. You're still young. You got a lot of years left in this, right? You're 20 years behind me, and I'm old enough that when I went to the doctor, they told me they're not worried about arthritis. They're worried about early onset rigor mortis. So you've got plenty of time. What do you want to leave behind? What are you creating in terms of a legacy? Well, you're doing a great job, and thank you for it. So I'm gonna put the stars of this week's episodes on the spot now, and we talked a little bit about the legacy that you're already creating between Meat Fight and the school. Jill and Jeff, as you guys think about your eventual ride off into the sunset and what people will think and say about you two, about Lockhart Smokehouse, about the legacy you're leaving? What do you want to leave behind?
I mean, I just loved everything Trey said. But it's these people are making a choice to come in, and let's make them feel welcome. As I've always told my children, just whatever you do, don't be an asshole. So I think that's a wonderful legacy. And if I can make it through and I didn't screw it up, that'll be great too.
So thank you everybody for participating in this. This has been a lot of fun. I'm really glad that we decided to kick off a podcast and that folks like you have been able to join us. Kenneth, I'm going to see you in Wilmington in 10 days. Send me that flyer. Trey, I will see you down in the DFW area soon. I can't wait to film your episode, and I'll swing by. Maybe we can get Jeff and Jill to come in and make cameos while we're there, and you guys can maybe bring some stuff with you. Maybe we'll do it out at we'll get around to golfing while we're there too. So for the audience, thanks for sticking around. If you haven't seen the episodes with Jill and Jeff, we'll put them up on the screen now, and tune in a couple of weeks when we get candid again with the folks from Jay's Barbecue Shack. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time.